Every single business, I don't care if it's a tiny coffee shop on the corner or some massive global tech company, they all face the exact same challenge. It's really the one question that decides if they sink or swim. And today, we're going to break down the blueprint for how to answer it.
Really think about it for a second. You're just swimming in a sea of similar products, similar services. Everybody's yelling for your attention. So how in the world do you actually cut through all that noise and come out on top?
Well, here's the thing. It's not luck. It's all about deliberate strategy. The companies that really succeed, they don't just cross their fingers and hope for the best. Nope. They build a crystal clear plan for how they're going to be different and why you, the customer, have to choose them over anybody else.
Okay, so let's get into it. I want you to think of this flowchart right here as our strategic GPS for the day. It's a proven blueprint, a roadmap that takes you right from the initial analysis all the way to a winning position in the market. So let's follow the path, shall we?
First things first, you gotta know your ground, right? Before you can even think about winning the game, you have to understand the playing field. This is the all-important intelligence gathering phase.
So this is what we call the 3C analysis. And look, it sounds simple, but it is so powerful. You absolutely have to understand your customers, your competitors, and your own company inside and out. Because without this 360-degree view, any strategy you come up with is basically just a shot in the dark. Everything, and I mean everything, starts with the customer. Are you playing in a market that's growing, or is it shrinking? What are the problems that people are dealing with that, for some reason, nobody is solving yet? This is where you find the gold, those juicy, unmet needs. Next, you gotta size up the competition. Who are the other players on the field? And then, just as important, you have to take a really hard, honest look in the mirror at your own company. What are you truly, genuinely great at? And where are you, well, a little vulnerable? This gives you a super realistic picture of the game you're about to play.
All right, so we've gathered our intel. Now we're moving from just understanding the landscape to actually drawing the map. This is where all that analysis turns into action, and we're going to use the core framework of marketing strategy, STP.
The S in STP stands for segmentation. The best way to think about this is like you're mapping the entire world. You're not looking at one giant, uniform market. No way. Instead, you're identifying all the different continents and countries of potential customers, and each one has its own unique culture, needs, and desires.
Then comes T for targeting. So now that you've got this beautiful map, you have to choose your destination. Let's be real. A company can't be everything to everyone. It just doesn't work. Targeting is that critical moment where you decide which specific group, or maybe groups, you are perfectly equipped to serve better than anyone else.
And finally, we get to P for positioning. Okay, you've chosen your destination, now it's time to plant your flag. This is all about defining your identity and communicating with zero doubt why you are the only choice for the customers you decided to target.
Now, out of those 3 steps, segmentation, targeting, and positioning, we're really going to zoom in on targeting. And you might be asking why. Well, because choosing where to play is one of the most fundamental make or break decisions a business can make. It sets the stage for everything else that follows.
And it really just boils down to 2 pretty simple questions. First, are you going to serve just a few specific customer groups, or are you going to go after many? And second, are you going to offer a really narrow, specialized set of services, or are you going to offer a super wide range of things? The answers to those 2 questions, they create this brilliant 4-quadrant matrix. You can see it right here on the slide. This lays out the 4 fundamental strategic paths that pretty much any company can take. So let's break down what each of these focus strategies actually means.
So you could be fully focused, right? Like a boutique firm that does one thing incredibly well for a very specific niche audience. Or you could be market-focused, where you serve one type of customer with a whole bunch of different services. Then there's service-focused, offering one specific service but to lots of different markets. But the real danger zone, that's being unfocused. That's the classic jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none trap.
And now for the final piece of the puzzle. And honestly, it's arguably the most powerful concept of them all. We've done our homework. We've picked our target. Now we have to win the most important battle there is, the battle for the customer's mind. And that, my friends, is positioning.
So here's the crucial thing to get. Positioning is not just about what you do or the features your product has. Not at all. It's about what people think about you. It's about the real estate you own inside their brain.
A really fantastic way to see this in action is with something called a positioning map. So here, we're looking at a bunch of hotels mapped out based on their price versus their level of service. And you can immediately see where things get crowded, right? And that obvious diagonal line? Yep, better service costs more money, no surprise there. But the really interesting question isn't what you see. It's what happens when you change your perspective.
Okay, but watch what happens when we just switch up the axes. We're looking at the exact same hotels, but this time we're mapping them by location versus physical luxury. And bam, just like that, the whole competitive landscape looks completely different. See that? A hotel that looked like it was totally lost in a crowd before, well, now it might be sitting all by itself in a wide open space. This is how you find your unique, winnable spot on the board.
This famous quote from the strategy legend Michael Porter just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures what we just saw on those maps. See, positioning isn't about being the best at everything. It's about being different. It's about making a deliberate choice about which customers you're going to serve and which needs you're going to meet, which, by definition, means choosing which ones you won't.
And look, this isn't just some dusty textbook theory. This strategic framework is the engine that powers some of the world's most successful digital brands. Let's take a look at an absolute masterclass in modern positioning.
I want you to think about LinkedIn for a second. When it first launched, the world was already packed with social networks. You had Facebook, you had MySpace. It was a crowded party. So how on earth did LinkedIn succeed? Well, they did it by not even trying to compete with those guys. They chose a completely different battlefield.
Let's just break down their genius here. Their target audience? Professionals, period. Frame of reference? Yeah, it's a social networking space. But here's the kicker. The point of difference is everything. It's for your career. That is the unique piece of real estate they own in our minds. And their massive network? That's just the reason to believe them. It is a perfect textbook execution of this entire framework.
So there you have it. From the 3 C's through segmentation and targeting, all the way to owning a unique position in the market. You now have the blueprint for how to truly stand out. So the only question left is this: what unique space in the customer's mind will you choose to own?